Hello, everyone. This is Seewing Yee from the Yee Real Estate Network. Thank you for attending this video recording webinar. And the topic of this webinar is interview with property manager Marilyn Kuzinski, our Tampa, Florida, Central Florida property manager. We are speaking on behalf of Jean Gillum, my network realtor, who has been promoting Central Florida investment properties for my investor network for the past few years. And Marilyn and her property management company is one of several property managers who are managing the properties in Central Florida on behalf of the Yee Real Estate Network members. And this is the second time that Marilyn has agreed to come to present. And the specific reason that I asked her to present is because Maryland, what I found that Maryland is such an important cog to our team. As we all know, as a out of state turnkey investors that you are, my database, my members, the property managers can make or break your real estate success long term. So by introducing Merlin once again, it'll give you an opportunity to hear how she does her business, how she help our investors to manage the properties, and all the process and procedures associated with it. So again, thank you for coming on board, Marilyn. I know you're a very busy person. You manage such a large company here in Tampa area in Central Florida. And so I'm going to begin by asking you my first of several questions and do the best you can to answer. So I know you are managing Central Florida properties for my investors, but lately your focus is kind of on the new construction that we're working with uh, the as you can see the uh, the subdivision that we have with this builder. So before we go into details, can you share with the audience, Marilyn, what is your background? How long you've been doing this? How many properties you've been managing, and what makes you so successful in your line of business?
Okay. Well, I've been doing this for about 25 years now. I've been a realtor for about 25 years, been doing the property management almost as long. And we have a great team that we've put together that has been with us for a super long time, that plays a vital part of making the property management successful. It's not just a one-person team. We have a pretty good sized team that, helps me along the way to make sure that we get the properties rented quickly. We have a marketing department that handles nothing but the advertisement of the properties once they're given to us. We have another department that kind of oversees and inspects the properties once they're rented. We have also a bookkeeping department that works closely with the owners so that if they have questions with their accounts, that they're able to not have to wait on me to get back with them, that he's ready, available. And also we have a 24/7 online portal, not only for our tenants, for our owners. So there's times that my owners will know that a tenant paid the rent even before I do because they're watching their portal. And we cover the Central Florida area, basically anywhere from Daytona to Tampa, the I-4 corridor. And recently, you're correct, we've gone into the new builds in the Winter Haven area, which is starting to explode right now because of the situation with the Puerto Rico. We've noticed a high influx of new tenants coming into the area that are moving out of Puerto Rico to be in the Winter Haven area. Winter Haven is next to the Kissimmee area, which is has a lot of their relatives in there. And once you present them with a new build property, of course, the tenant's going to choose a new build over a pre-existing property.
Yeah, Merlin. By the way, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about the influx of Puerto Ricos moving over to Central Florida as a result of the hurricane in Puerto Rico. Now, I heard on the news that as many as 250,000 Puerto Ricans are migrating into Florida, and a lot of them are coming to Central Florida area. In the neighborhoods that we are promoting. So how do you qualify? I know a lot of these people uh, they do not qualify to rent homes because maybe they don't show a track record of income or job stability. So how what type of those immigrants from Puerto Rico, if you will, I don't know how to say this correctly. What how do they qualify? I mean, I'm sure
By them,
they probably have a job in Puerto Rico. They have to, well, they could have the same job. They need to find a new job before they qualify to occupy the rental homes.
correct. What we have actually ran into, um, there is, of course, the United States government is helping them with their deposits, and so that's helping them out a lot right there. But a lot of the tenants that we have placed in some of the homes right now are they're basically computer web based employed. So a lot of them are able to pick up and move without losing their job. They're just, they can do the same job that they've been doing without moving, without having to relocate for and look for a new job also. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people out there that are looking for jobs, but with us being a tourist industry down here, there is always tons of jobs available for people to fill. So, of course, before we qualify anybody, we have to make sure that they have a job. We're looking for 3 times to 4 times the monthly rent. We also are looking at their credit highly before we place a tenant in there. So we're not going to take somebody with a low credit score, anything like that. So past history, even though they're from Puerto Rico, they have social security numbers. So we're able to track a lot more than what you would think if they're coming from, England or somewhere out of the country where they don't have social security numbers.
So so recently, since the hurricane, have you had some actual experiences with putting these individuals into the homes in the Tampa area?
Yes, we have. We're working with one right now that we're getting ready to place into an investor that you and Jean brought to me into a property actually in Winter Haven. And she actually is, without getting into her background and stuff like that, she actually worked for military over there. And so her income is almost $6,000 a month guaranteed because she's retired military.
Yeah,
So,
coincidentally,
there are,
yeah,
there are people
yeah.
out there that make great money, in Puerto Rico. I know sometimes on the media you hear that, it's kind of a poor country, but there are a lot of people that, still make a lot of money over there.
Yeah, yeah. Funny you said that, Maryland, because I myself is retired from the U.S. Army, 20 years of service. So, so renting to active duty soldiers is a very beneficial. They make excellent renters because they have the money to pay the rent. So,
Plus, it's super clean. They take care of your property. They're used to being organized and clean and everything. And I recently had a military gentleman move out of a property, and I walked in that property, and you could not even tell he has lived there for 2 years.
exactly. Yep, I totally understand. I've been there, done that. So even without the influx of people from Puerto Rico coming over to Central Florida, even without that, I mean, Tampa and the Central Florida growing so fast that you guys, doing so well. All the rental situation is very, very good anyway. Now, I'm going to ask you this: now that are approximately a whopping 250,000 people are migrating to Central Florida from Puerto Rico. I mean, in terms of your opinion, on a short-term and long-term basis, and how it's going to affect the local economy in Central Florida, Tampa, and the new bills that we're promoting. I mean, short-term, long-term. What are your perspective on this?
We've already seen it here. I mean, even with my local grocery store, when I go in there, it's it's like it's around a holiday or something because the grocery stores are so overflowing with people to where they normally in a normal day they're not like that, but we've already seen the influx of, and me being a business owner, I look at it as at an income standpoint. So I'm looking at all these people buying these groceries and shopping at Walmart or Dillard's or Macy's, and I'm going, this is all income coming into our community right now. So the more income that's brought into the community, the more these department stores and grocery stores and car dealers, they're going to start hiring to help accommodate the overflow that what we're not normally used to. Do I believe that all of them will stay here for long term? Of course not. I think that you're probably going to be looking at 50% of them migrating back in 3 to 5 years.
Right. Yeah. So overall, is not going to hurt anything. It'll only help the local economy in terms of everything, jobs and rental properties and what have you. Right? Is that correct?
Definitely, definitely. And like I said, I've already seen it. My team has experienced it. The minute we put a property on the market, we're already getting multiple calls on that. Before the property's even ready, we're getting calls on it, wanting to see it, wanting to, put deposits down. But the other side of that is, like you said in the beginning of this, that I'm real picky about who we put in there. So I'm not looking to put a short term person in that rental. I'm looking to put a long term tenant in there. Um, I know that that will make our investors happy. So I'm not a body placer basically. So I don't put somebody in your rental just to fill it.
Well,
We do a background and all that on them.
that's very good to hear, Marilyn. You've been doing a great job for our investors for the past few years. Jim Gillum has been selling the new builds in initially in Winter Haven about a year and a half ago, with on behalf of Highland Homes, the builder that we're working with. And you've been on board with us since the beginning, a few years back, in helping to place our investors' homes with tenants. So you've been doing a real good job. So really appreciate that. So in the past, up until now, before we talk about this new subdivision that we're promoting through Highland Homes, you can see on this screen the Winter Haven in this Normandy Heights subdivision. Before we go over details of this, you've been helping Jim Gillum to sell the new builds. I mean, as a property manager, that is not sell, but you know what I mean. So,
Right.
so share with the audience how uh, what kind of experience you have promoting the rental homes through the previous new builds that we already sold through in Winter Haven, and now you're selling pre-construction. I mean, not selling. Yeah, I keep saying
I
this.
know,
Uh,
managing them.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Well, the minute Gene sells them the home, and don't get me wrong, I know it's probably very scary to buy an investment that one you've never seen, two you're not going to be there while you're building it. I'm a workaholic, so one of the things is, um, you know, I oversee the build from the day that they break ground on that until they finish it. I do multiple, because I'm in the area so much. I do multiple walkthroughs on the property. So if I see something I don't like, I let the builder know. He stops what they're doing. We go and we talk about it. He says, "Hey, is this what you want?" "Yes, this is what I want." So I treat each property as if it was my own home that was being built. So when you get done, you have a quality home. I also try to keep the builder current with what's going on in the rental market too. So in other words, I always say this: tenants like nice things. They just, for one reason or another, can't afford to buy them. Either they don't have the high enough credit scores, or they don't have the money to put down on them. So, but they want to live in a nice home too. So I'm able to take feedback from, pre-existing properties, what they don't like about those properties, and make sure that when you're building the new property, that we do touch on those, maybe the colors of the cabinets or the flooring, stuff like that, that makes your property more desirable than a pre-existing or the one down the street.
Right. Yeah, Merlin, one thing I noticed about you by working with you for a while now, and of course by talking to you as well, I've worked with, I presented other markets in the U.S. over the past 10 years, and I could honestly say that as a property manager, you go above and beyond the call of duty because
Right.
you do something extra that most property managers not willing to do. So I really appreciate that. And my investors from mostly from California, they don't really understand behind the scenes the extra things that you that you uh, things that you provide, the additional value that you provide as property manager. So that's very reassuring. So for those of you out there, investors, my investors, I mean, having a great property manager like Marilyn and her team is really gonna help you succeed as a to buy here, especially here in Central Florida, Tampa, in these new builds. Speaking of the new builds, can you briefly, from a high level, Marilyn, I forgot the names of it. I mean, we are promoting. Jean Gillen is promoting. She had promoted Winter Haven, one of the floor plan. Like I said, for the past a year and a half, and a number of my investors have closed escrow on it, and they you have successfully placed their tenants into the property. Sometimes it take longer than usual. Sometimes take 30 to 60 days to place a tenant, depending on the time of the year. But can you briefly describe the past subdivision, the new build with the Highland homes that already close out, then the current new builds? I know my recollection is we have the new one here in Normandy subdivision. We have current one that Jean has promoted a few months earlier this year, the Hudson, Florida, then Zephyrus Hills, then the one below Tampa. Can you go briefly go over some of these areas
Sure.
that the Highland Homes are
Sure.
doing, and ultimately the Normandy floor plan? Go ahead.
Right. Well, the one that you're talking about is probably Country Club Estates. That one's completely closed out. And then you have Bretton Ridge. In Country Club Estates, most of them were the Hawthorns that were built in there. Those have rented all pretty, like I said, we have no vacancies in there right now. And then you have the Bretton Ridge one that are a little bit different. So the people that didn't like the Country Club Estates were more drawn to the Bretton Ridge subdivision, which is a little bit smaller subdivision than the Country Club Estates. And both of them were pretty much, I believe, the Hawthorne that was built over there. And they're all 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2 car garages. They have the great room on them. The thing that I've noticed that in dealing with they're all pretty much the same. And the thing that I've noticed is that for some reason, tenants are liking a larger master bath right now, with a bathtub. And so some of the ones in Country Club, some of the beginning ones in Country Club only offered the shower in the master bath. And then they started putting the bathtubs in with a separate shower in them. And those we can get a little bit more rent out of those. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're building. That if what you put into these is what you're going to get out of them. There again, it goes back to the tenants like nice things too. And you provide this tenant a comfortable living, they're going to stay there for many years. So and we do, I go in up front with a tenant. I'm always very honest with a tenant, and I tell them that things increase on our end every year, taxes, insurance, stuff like that. So I always tell a tenant when we're going in that we're always looking at a 3 to 5% rental increase. So they all know this. So that helps cover any additional expenses that you would increase through property taxes, stuff like that, and still make money off of it. So
Yeah, it's good, nice to set the expectations for the tenants, so there will be no misunderstanding in the future. So yeah, so okay, so what I hear you saying is that the previous new construction floor plan in the past 2 years, many of them has already sold out. They are performing according to expectations, and now Jim Gillen is presenting the one in Huston, the one in Suffolk Hills, and the one below Tampa. I forgot the name of the subdivision. And then now in front of our screen is another subdivision in Winter Haven, Florida, with Highland Homes. It's called Normandy Plan. So, can you briefly describe the this particular subdivision?
yeah, sure. Normandy has absolutely nothing there right now. It is just open for the grabs right now. I don't believe, I think maybe one has started construction in there. This is such a new subdivision that I think that you'll have no problem putting people in there because it is, if you look at the map, you're not far from Kissimmee. And if you remember, I said that the people coming from Puerto Rico have a lot of relatives that live in Kissimmee. So, and you're also very close to Lakeland, and you're not far from Tampa. So you're almost smack dab in the middle between Orlando and Tampa. So you can have people that work in Tampa. You can also have people that work in Orlando, Plant City, Lakeland, or Kissimmee. So that's going to be a definite draw to them. Plus, you're not stacked right on top of each other, even though the houses are, you don't have large lots, but you're not on top of each other like you are more so in the Kissimmee, Orlando, Tampa area. If you're looking at the screen right now, that is the Parker that they have displayed on there. That one is a very, very popular one to rent because it has the island in it where people the mom or whoever's cooking can be on one side cooking while the family is on the other side, watching the television, stuff like that. And everybody's still a big part of the family there. So that is probably the most popular one that the tenants like and that one is the Parker. And
Can you scroll down the slideshow and briefly talk about them if you can? You and I.
sure, you tell me. Let me see if I can find it on it.
There's a lot.
Here, here's the Parker right here. The 1715 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car. most of the tenants are also looking for that 4 bedroom. Very rarely do I have a tenant looking for a 3 bedroom.
Wow,
Um,
interesting.
even though they are, I believe this is a Hawthorne, even though, they may not, she doesn't have it in here, even though they may have a smaller family, remember that they are coming from, an area where they probably still have family members in there. So, that 4th bedroom is very important to them because they can have their parents come from Puerto Rico and stay with them. Brother and sister come from Puerto Rico and stay with them, short term. Oops. So, I lost your screen there.
Yeah, you sure did.
Hold on. Um, let me get out of here. Let me find it here. I think it's up here. Hudson. Nope. Crap, I don't know where it is. Let me just go back here. We're right here. There we go. So that, like I said, that 4th bedroom is really popular with tenants, and I can tell you this right here is a 4 bedroom
Right.
that you're looking at right here that says now selling.
Yeah.
That is your Parker right there.
Yeah. Let's look at the
That
price ranges. Let's scroll down one more slide. We will see the price point. Right. Yeah. Right here, the price point.
right.
So the 4 bedrooms. What's the estimated pricing on it?
The 4 bedroom Parker is 187.9.
Right.
The other thing that tenants like about that is it has a back porch, a little lanai on back. So, they can sit out back and enjoy, the evenings sitting out back. So that one is a super popular one.
Yeah.
Um, the Hawthorne 4 is the next one down, but it's a little bit smaller. You do have a built-in kitchen nook in there. Um, but like I said, more people gravitate towards the Parker than they do the Hawthorne.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Can you scroll down to the cash flow sheet so we can go over the numbers?
Yes.
That's a more, yeah, right here, right here. Cash flow, Tristan. Well, so let me give you let me present a little bit on this cash flow scenario. But I mean, I'm very impressive with Highland Homes because I mean, 180K or something like that, with a floor plan of 2,164 square foot, 4 bedroom. I mean, that's huge. It's less than $100 per square foot. I mean, great value, 4 bedroom, 3.5 bath. And the good thing about this cash flow analysis is it's kind of small. I can't even see it that well, but I kind of know what's going on. $187,000. The projection rent, if you can look at down here, is between what 1,800 to 2,000. Is that what I
Correct.
feel? So
Correct.
that's a for somebody, for a tenant to potentially pay $1,800 to $2,000 monthly rent to rent a 2,100 square foot 4 bedroom. That bodes well for the investor's bottom line. What I'm trying to say is, if you look at the cash flow with 25% down payment, the cash flow is kind of small. I can't even see it. The cash flow, the net cash flow after all the monthly deductions is quite high. What is the parameters like?
Cash flow is 1332 to 1482.
But that's all cash purchase. I'm talking about 25% down payment financing on the left hand side. The net cash flow monthly after mortgage deduction, taxes, insurance, and property management fee, which is
Oh, 480 to 680.
yeah. Well, when I look at this number, this is an important number to me and to any prospective investors. So this net cash flow is rather high. In the 400 to 600 net cash flow per month. That's a return of like 8 to 9% cap rate. And also the formula that I apply, that I teach my investors. When you buy investment property, you have to meet close to the 1% rule. My The 1% rule means 1% multiplied by the purchase price. The gross monthly rent should equal or around that range. So this cash flow analysis meets my expectation. But when I over the years, Marilyn, just so you know, whenever investors buy a property, a single family home for 150 to 200K, the rent is usually less than 1%. For example, 150K from other markets in the past, the gross rent normally is like 1,000, maybe 1,100. To buy a 180 to a 200K home, single family home, the monthly rent is usually like 14 to 1,500. But in this case, in the projection, on this particular area in Winter Haven in Central Florida, it's 1,800 or 2,000. So if the renter that qualify to buy to rent for 1,800 to 2,000, they probably need to make around at least $60,000 of annual salary. So, so you truly believe, based on the other subdivisions you sold on the behalf of Highland Homes, for my investors in the past, that the projection of the rent is this good, really?
Yes, yes. I mean, you've got to understand that we are no longer in the single working family environment. It's usually double income environment. So you've usually got both both two people, at least two people working there. So when you break it out like that, you're really only looking at $30,000 per each tenant to bring in, which would qualify you for the 60,000.
Yeah.
Going back to the military lady, that was a single lady that she's making over $60,000 herself, and she's married. So they're moving from Puerto Rico, so the husband will be working once he gets here, but she qualifies on her own. And once the husband starts working, they're going to have plenty of money. The rent's not going to be an issue ever.
Yep. I agree. I agree. So, okay. So therefore, long term, and this Normandy floor plan is all pre-construction. So if any of my investors wish to purchase, they put a deposit. I forgot the deposit, $1,000 deposit. I'm not sure, but
I
that
think you're right.
very minimal. Then they go through a pre-approval with a lender. Either will provide the lender for them, or they will find their own lender to get a pre-approval letter. Then they sign a contract. Then they will find a lot. Then Jim Gillum will help our investors find a lot for them. And they're gonna have to wait like 6 to 9 months before the completion of the home. Is that the estimated time frame, you think, Marilyn?
Yes. And actually, let me touch a little bit on that, because our busy months are from February to September. September is when we start slowing down. But the thing is that our the reason why we're busy starting February is because tenants get their tax checks back then. And it's not about them qualifying to pay the monthly rent. It's about them being able to put down whatever deposit I require. And trust me, if I can get a higher deposit, I do. Because the higher the deposit, the better tenant you get. Because, I want to be able to give them back their deposit, and they want their deposit back. So in February is when tax time is for us. And most renters get a tax return. So they're able to take that money, and that's when they're moving. And you do have a little low in April, the beginning of May, because that's when school's getting out, and then the floodgates open up again until right before school starts. So them completing in 6 to 8 months would be perfect. It would put them in the peak time. Of course, right now we're in our slower months, so it is a little bit harder to rent them. The only reason why we are renting right now is because of the influx from Puerto Rico. But you can't count on that next year. So if you were going to buy, right now would be the perfect time to buy.
Exactly. I agree. As a matter of fact, Berlin, I would like to get your opinion. So, if our investors, my investors, or anybody out there listen to this presentation, why would, if I were investors, how are you going to convince me to buy not only in this particular subdivision here in Winter Haven, Central Florida, through Highland Homes, but why should I buy Tampa Metro? What's short term, what's long term, what's good about investing in Central Florida and what have you?
Well, each area has different qualities about it. In the Tampa area, you're a port city. So you're always going to have jobs and everything like that because it's a port city. There's no really low time of hiring there. They're always looking for people to hire in Tampa area. In the Winter Haven area, like I said, you're kind of centrally located there. So you can work in Tampa, you can work in Orlando, you can work in Lakeland. So you have a lot more opportunity where you can work at. Now, if you the reason why people tend to gravitate towards the Winter Haven area, there again, is because it's not, you don't have the traffic to deal with like you do in Orlando or Tampa, but yet you're still close enough. And tenants I've found will prefer to drive a little bit further and pay a little bit less rent than what they will pay in the metropolitan areas. So that's the draw there. In Winter Haven, you also have quite a few, like you have Minute Maid there, the orange juice people. You have a central hub for Publix, which is one of our big grocery chains. It's a nice grocery chain that we have here in Florida, and you have a central hub there. You have the new cardiac hospital that's going in there, or it's already been built. So you have a lot of doctors and nurses now looking to purchase. Believe it or not, doctors are one of our big renters in the nicer communities because they have a lot of debt on their hands from becoming a doctor. So a lot of times they don't qualify for a mortgage, but they still make the money until they get lower that debt ratio a little bit. So they're awesome tenants. They usually are very rarely there because they're trying to pay off their debt and at the hospital. Same way with the nurses. And we've got two brand new high functioning cardiac hospitals. One's a cardiac hospital and one's a cardiac center that just went in there. And then your big draw there is, of course, Legoland. Legoland is fairly new. So they're still, hiring people all the time there. So that's a big draw. And then if they're into the entertainment business, of course, they go east instead of west, and they go to Orlando, which you have Disney and Universal. And so believe it or not, we have a few actors that rent properties also. So that's what generates the different areas. Also in Tampa, you have Zephyr Hills up there, which is outside of Tampa, which is a super good area. The schools there are A-rated schools, so those are really sought after from people that work in the Tampa area and want to get their children into a super good school. Hudson is just a sleepy little community that's on the Gulf over there that is kind of in this kind of secret that's been out there for many years. And you're going to have a different clientele that moves in the Hudson area. You're probably going to have more of a mature tenants there. You're going to probably be demanding a little bit more rent. They are nice homes, but the Hudson is it's not as it's kind of more geared towards retirees. So you have a lot of retired military, retired Northerners go there, stuff like that. So that's the draw towards Hudson. But you couldn't go wrong with anywhere. Like I said, one of the reasons why I follow the I-4 corridor, and if you notice, this kind of goes right along the I-4 corridor, which is the main road that goes from the east coast of Florida to the west coast of Florida. So literally you can get from one side of Florida to the other within 3 hours, is because people tend to stay close to that corridor to be able to get where they need to get quickly.
Wow. Wow, you provide some great information, Marilyn. So let me understand what I heard from you. So what I heard from you from a high level before we conclude this presentation, and again, thank you for your time. What I hear from you saying is that the Central Florida, Tampa, Winter Haven, Hudson, Zephyr Hills is growing very fast. The subdivision that we're promoting through Jingillum, through Highland Homes, the square footage, the price point, and the cash flow is extremely high, way above the benchmark for investments. And then I might even be safe to say that the potential for appreciation is pretty decent as well, because the demand for housing exceeds supply here in the Central Florida area, and the influx of people, not only from Puerto Rico moving to Central Florida, but influx of people from all over the U.S. The retirees, young people are moving into Tampa Metro, Orlando Metro, Central Florida. So I suspect for years to come, Central Florida will continue to be an extremely excellent investment market for artistic turnkey investors. And finally, above all, the confidence level for investors should be high because of you, because you are the one of the better private managers that I ran across in my years of promoting my business. So clearly, the reward is much greater than the risk for any investor to buy into these homes that as we represented. So with that said, Marilyn. Oh, by the way, I know you're extremely busy, but from time to time, yeah, if one of my investors wish to do some more additional due diligence, may they email you? Maybe you can do a phone appointment with
Yes.
me. I know you're very
Yeah.
busy, but I don't expect my investors to call you directly without any warning in advance. I mean, first they have to email. They have to be serious. They have to go through me. They talk to me first, and they talk to Jim Gillum. Make sure they
Right.
are serious to pursue this kind of opportunities. Then, if they are, as they continue to do their due diligence, they can email you and ask you questions. So because as a property manager, you have so much perspective. You've been in the area. You've been in Central Florida for so many years. You know every neighborhood, every location, the ups and downs, sideways, what's going on with the Central Florida economy all these years. So you are such a sounding board. You have so much knowledge and perspective. You're such an important cog on my team. So
Yeah.
okay, Marilyn. Well, I know this is your weekend, so hate to take the time out of the day. I really appreciate that. So thank you so much, and I'll let you go now. And for the rest of my investors, you can contact me if you seriously want to buy some of these pre-construction properties. All you have to do, talk to Jim Gillum or myself. Then if you're ready to go, put a deposit, minimal deposit. Then sit tight until the homes gets built in the next 6 to 8 months, and then you can have a very good long-term investment future buying into Central Florida new construction. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marilyn. Have a nice day.
You
Goodbye.
too. Bye now.